For more on that story, to also give us better insight, we're joined by political analyst, historian, and author, Mr. Marcus Papadopoulos, who's joining us from the British capital, London. Mr. Papadopoulos, welcome to the program. Give us your thoughts on this recent attack that took place in the Syrian capital, Damascus. The questioning of it is definitely put into question, is a big question mark over the timing of it, as we're seeing major gains being made by the Syrian military on the ground, and also politically, Syria has been once again remending its ties with different Arab countries. Help us unpack the situation better.
Well, the explosions in Damascus were a truly heinous terrorist attack carried out by some of the most putrid people who walk this planet. And I note with disgust how there has been no condemnation of this horrific terrorist outrage by either America, Britain, or the European Union. But then that should not come as any surprise, because both Washington and London, and also Brussels, played an instrumental role in assisting the various terrorist groups during the Syrian conflict. But I also have to add this, that even though the Syrian army has liberated the vast majority of Syrian territory from the control of numerous terrorist groups, it is only inevitable that the Syrian people will be plagued by terrorist attacks going forward, because there are numerous terrorist cells scattered across the whole of Syria, in particular close to major cities such as Damascus. And that is why it will be absolutely crucial for the various Syrian intelligence agencies and also the intelligence agencies of both Russia and Iran to pinpoint where these terrorist cells are located and for the appropriate action to be taken against them. Because this mopping up operation, as it is known, is not really one for the Syrian army. It can only be effectively carried out by intelligence agencies. So, whilst the conventional war has been largely won by the Syrian people, the next phase will be fighting against the various terrorist cells, ISIS and Al-Qaeda, which are scattered across the whole of Syria.
Mr. Papadopoulos, before we leave you, one of the pressing questions here: who benefits from this instability in Syria, regionally and internationally?
Well, of course, the fact that there are numerous terrorist cells in Syria demonstrates that the terrorists, ISIS and Al-Qaeda, have not been entirely eliminated. Indeed, it is virtually impossible to eliminate terrorist ideologies, because there will always be supporters, there will always be adherents. But my analysis of the attacks in Damascus shows that they were very well coordinated, very well planned, and they were brutally executed, which demonstrates that some very influential players in the world have been training these terrorist cells. So even though the advances of the Syrian army, the liberation of most of Syrian soil, cannot be rolled back now by the terrorist groups and their patrons such as America, Britain, Saudi Arabia and Israel, nonetheless, this is a way of the terrorists and their supporters inflicting losses on Syria. It is a way of keeping the fight going. It is a way of warning the Syrian people that they are not entirely safe in their towns and cities and villages throughout Syria. So I believe this attack is more of a psychological attack on the Syrian people. And as I said, it is a way of the terrorists and their patrons maintaining the fight against the Syrian people, although this is a psychological fight now, because the conventional war has been all but won by the gallant Syrian people.
All right, thanks a lot, Mr. Marcus Papadopoulos, joining us from the British capital, London.